Alright, hey guys, welcome back to the layout once again. As you can see behind me, we've already got some sub-roadbed down. So I just laid this down, it's up on risers and everything, and I've determined the grade. So we're going to step back just a few seconds, we're going to look at how I did this, how I determined the grade, and also a few other preparations that I needed to make for laying the sub-roadbed. And then hopefully in this video we'll be able to complete most of the sub-roadbed around the layout, and if we don't, I'll carry over to the next video. But this is where we're at right now. We're going to take a look at doing this, and then we'll continue on that way. So let's get started. Alright, so I haven't gotten really far with the sub-roadbed here, but I thought I'd just take a quick break to show you what I've done and just kind of explain it. So this piece was already cut, as I said, like 4.5 times now, but what we have to do here is actually first determine the grade. So I cut a couple of just like rough risers. They didn't even have to be out of 1x4s, just to get this propped up. Then what I do with this, this is a 4-foot level here, just a cheap one, and then a lot of people will use screws that you can just put into the end of this, or you can, like for, in our case, I'm just using a wood block, because this is exactly 0.75 inches high, and I know that a rise of 0.75 inches over 48 inches is approximately 1.56% grade, which is about what we're shooting for in here, it's between 1.5 and 1.6. So what you can do then is once you get this propped up on there, what you want to have is the level, you actually put it the reverse way, if you know what I mean. So if this is going up grade, you want the level to read level, because at this end you're making up for that gained space on that end with this spacer down here. So you put how much you want it to rise, so over 48 inches it's about 0.75 inches, and then I lay this across here, put the spacer at this end, because the sub-roadbed is actually higher at that end, and when this reads about level, then I know I'm good, and then I just put my risers in. And right now what I'm using are just 1x4 blocks, so I've got one here and then one here, and this will allow us to tie that second piece in, so that'll be kind of locked together there. I've got one on this face here, and then there's also one tucked back in here, which you can see where I screwed it in there, so that gives it stability that way. I want to put another one in here. I've also tied it in along the top here onto this this piece that's under here, so that's tied in there. And now I need to put this section, oh sorry for the shakiness, I need to put that section, lay that down there, determine the grade, and I'll screw that in. Alright, so this section right in here is now installed. I probably want to come in with a couple more support pieces underneath. So you see I got 2 in there, but I want to do one in here and probably one right in here. And what's great about this is actually that the width in between these 2 parallel boards is actually exactly a 1x3. So these spacers are just kind of free cut, so those aren't 1x3 pieces that I cut, but these 1x3s which I'm using as risers, just fit perfectly snugly in between. So that worked out, which is kind of lucky. I didn't really plan that. But you can kind of get a sense of how it's going to sweep now. So you get like, this is single main line through here, and then we pull off into 2 and then 3 tracks, and then possibly 4 over here. And just kind of curve that way towards the yard. So the next thing that we need to do now is install the section just heading that way west. So this in here is actually just going to be a 1x3 piece, because the sub-roadbed that I cut here is exactly the width of a 1x3. And instead of just cutting more of this, I'm just going to use a pre-cut board. So that's what's going to go here. I'm going to prop that in. That's the piece I'm going to put in next, and then we'll just keep on moving. And then, yeah, we'll try to get most of the sub-roadbed done today. So let me get on that. Alright, I'm going to try not to make this video too long, but I do want to stop every once in a while to explain some things that I'm doing. So, one problem that I had over here was that, well, first of all, these 2 boards aren't the same height. So, what we need to do here is actually put a connecting piece underneath to join these 2 boards together. But when you put a flat piece under here, you actually create kind of a lip right here because this board's thicker. So to correct that, what I've done is, here's our connecting piece. If you can imagine, it's just going to go under there. But on this end, I'm putting 2 layers of this styrene stuff. It's just like styrene squares. I'm just going to put that on this end, so when you slip this under here, this board sits on top, and now these are flush up here. The other problem that I was having is that over here, this board was kind of skewed. It was kind of leaning downward, kind of like that. Not that severe, obviously, but to fix that, I've just taken one of these little squares, which you can just break off. I slipped it under this side of the riser here, and that corrected the tilt that way. So then that means that I can put this here, and these 2 boards should line up. They should be level, and now they should be flush. So I just went out to the garage and I cut some curved sections. This is set at 26 inches, so this is a 26-inch radius. And I'm gonna have a separate video on how I do like cutting sub-roadbed and determining the radius and whatnot. So don't worry if you're expecting an explanation on exactly how to set that up and determine the markings and all that and how to cut it. I'll have a separate video on that. But I just want to explain really quick what I'm doing here. So as you can see, there's no portion in here. So that I still need to finish the lift-out bridge, sub-roadbed, and then the portion between the lift-out bridge and here. But what I wanted to do is get this cut first so I know exactly where this is going to line up over here. So what I'm going to do in a second is take just a 1x3 piece. I'm going to cut that into shorter sections, and each of those little blocks will go under here acting as the joints. Then I'm going to put a screw through each piece, and that will not solidify it yet, so it'll be a little flexible still. So these joints, there's going to be probably like less than a millimeter of space, but that's enough to let them just bend a little bit. So this is a 26-inch radius, but you know, there's some flexibility room because technically the cork could lie a little inward or outward. So I just want to make sure that the sub-roadbed itself is in position properly, and just doing those two initial screws will allow us to bend it around. We'll mount it down, and then we'll finish it off with another 2 screws in each of those to lock it in place on these risers. So I just wanted to explain what I'm doing there. And then once this whole section's in place, then we'll have to fill in here with a straight section, and then probably an easement curve here as well. So here's the assembled curved piece that we got down here. This is now one kind of complete section. You can see I put these blocks over the joints. I think I just talked about that, but I just put in 2 screws. That way this is actually, it's a little flexible in the joints. But I'm going to flip this over, and then once I get it in place with the risers exactly where I want them, I'll put 2 more screws into each of those blocks, plus the risers will hold it in place, and that'll prevent any curvature issues and any buckling of the joints. So let me flip that over. I'm going to get this positioned, and then what we need to do is figure out the sub-roadbed here, and then continue it this way.